folks you said had written you off maybe? What do you say to them?
They wrote me off. I ain't right back, though. That's the problem. I ain't right back. Let's go.
8 years on from his last start for an NFL franchise in a season opener, Geno Smith dropped one of the toughest quotes of all time. After everything he went through in that period, it's clear to see why this moment meant so much to the West Virginia alum. From falling out of the first round of the draft to getting his jaw broken by a teammate, it's safe to say that Geno Smith has just about seen it all. He had to fight tooth and nail simply to keep his career alive, despite his incredible talent and unwavering self-belief. This is the story of the remarkable rise, fall, and redemption of Geno Smith. Born in Miramar, Florida, Eugene Cyril Smith III earned his nickname Geno from his grandfather, who was commonly known as Big Geno. Smith came from an extremely athletic lineage. One of his cousins, Melvin Bratton, was a star running back for the University of Miami, while his great uncle was an Olympic hurdler, which meant his talent on the field came as no surprise when he enrolled at Miramar High School in 2005. Smith started as a freshman, where his now famous resilience was shown late in the season. He was sacked multiple times in their state quarterfinals, with one at the end of the third quarter breaking Geno's collarbone. Always willing to learn, Smith used that offseason to improve his release and reading of the game to get the ball out quicker, something that improved his play leaps and bounds in the upcoming seasons. Wearing number 12 for the Miramar Patriots, Geno Smith emerged as one of the finest quarterbacks in the class of 2009, attending the Elite 11 camp before his insane senior year, where his 3,089 passing yards for 30 touchdowns and over 300 rushing yards had him ranked as the number 3 dual-threat quarterback prospect in the nation. He also earned first-team All-State honors, came second in voting for Mr. Florida, and finished as the third-best passer in Broward County history. This drew offers from many top programs, including Alabama, Clemson, Florida, and Florida State, but young Geno chose to go far from home, committing to West Virginia University. His high school football coach was a former Mountaineer, which may have impacted his decision. Regardless, it quickly proved to be the right choice. Mountaineer fans got their first glimpse of what was to come when Geno entered the game to replace the injured starter Jared Brown against Marshall. Geno led West Virginia to a 24-7 win, throwing for 147 yards and a touchdown with an impressive 71.4% completion rate. With Brown then heading for the NFL, Geno earned the starting spot as a sophomore and came back to haunt Marshall, steering the Mountaineers to an epic overtime comeback win from being 21-6 down, throwing for 316 yards and 1 touchdown. Smith finished his sophomore season with the second highest single-season numbers for passing yards and touchdowns in West Virginia University's history, with 2,567 and 22 respectively on a 9-4 season. His junior season saw Smith's numbers soar to new heights under a more pass-heavy coaching staff. He set various West Virginia single-season passing records with 346 completions for 4,385 yards, and his 31 passing touchdowns helped WVU to their first 10-win season since 2007. Unfortunately, Smith averaged just -2 yards on the ground, totally at odds with his ranking as a dual-threat quarterback in high school, but showing his adaptability to any given situation as he succeeded nonetheless. Ryan Clark put it better than I can on the Pivot podcast.
West Virginia was electric. It just was, man.
He made people forget about Pat White.
Yeah, it was, and you did it in a different way. And you know, let's be honest, it was at West Virginia, it was kind of the start of that new wave, the spread, but it was so much speed on the field. And you had a quarterback who was a black quarterback, but it wasn't about his legs. Right. It was about him being able to understand defenses, use his arm, get the football out of his hands quickly, and it was all of these things.
The 2012 season was a strange one for West Virginia, starting 5-0, then proceeding to go 0-5, and when it was all said and done, finishing the season at an underwhelming 7-6. While the team faltered, it was largely down to the defense, as Geno's numbers barely dipped down the stretch. He set a school record with 42 touchdowns in his senior season while also passing for over 4,000 yards. This perhaps unfairly hurt his draft stock, with many teams viewing the late season decline as an indication of inconsistency, but there was almost nothing inconsistent about Smith's college career, as he set school records for career passing yards, touchdowns, and completions across his 4 years at Morgantown. His pre-draft evaluation saw scouts appreciate his competitiveness, arm strength, and quick release, while expressing concern for his blitz awareness and accuracy. Despite these concerns, Geno was still considered a first-round caliber talent as one of the stars of college football. It was all coming together perfectly. His mother's birthday lined up with draft night as they were ready to celebrate a fantastic moment for their family in the green room. But like many other unfortunate talents before him, Geno spent the entire night of April 25th, 2013, waiting to hear his name called. With each passing pick, his hope dwindled until it finally sank in that tonight was not the night. The following day, he was selected by the New York Jets 39th overall, headed to the Big Apple with a chip on his shoulder. Geno was set to sit behind Mark Sanchez, but was named the starter for Week 1 when Sanchez's shoulder gave out in a preseason game. His debut in the Meadowlands came against the Bucs, and was something of a microcosm for Smith's NFL career, fumbling and throwing an interception early in the game. However, he managed to come back and pass for his first touchdown just before halftime. Smith also drew a flag late in the game to set up a 48-yard go-ahead field goal en route to an 18-7 victory. The Jets finished the 2013 season 8-8, as Mark Sanchez never returned from a shoulder injury, while Smith passed for 3,000 yards, 12 touchdowns, and a whopping 21 interceptions in his stead. He showed improvement later in the season and was used more in the running game than he ever had been in college, going for 366 yards and 6 touchdowns on 72 carries, showing there was certainly something to build on in his second season. Smith was confirmed as the starter for the Jets in 2014, but this season proved to be even more tumultuous than his first, with some insane highs and lows, amplified as ever by the boisterous New York media. After throwing his 5th pick in 4 games to start the season, Smith was fined by the league for a profane outburst at fans in MetLife, then missed a team meeting before their following game against the Chargers because he mistimed a trip to the movies with his friends. The Jets subsequently lost to San Diego 31-0. 3 weeks later, Smith was benched after throwing 3 picks in the first quarter. Though his numbers started to trend upwards again at the tail end of the season, he stunned the league with his performance in the finale against the Dolphins, going 20 for 25 to the tune of 358 yards in the air, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and a perfect passer rating. His 2014 season stats were noticeably worse than his rookie year, but that last performance had the Jets front office holding out hope, willing to extend his role as the starter for 1 more season. Little did Geno know, he would only start 1 more game in a Jets jersey. You see, Geno had promised his teammate, defensive end Ike Enemkpali, that he would participate in a summer football camp that he put on in his hometown in Texas. The morning he was meant to fly out, a friend of Geno's died in a motorcycle accident, which caused Smith to understandably withdraw at the last minute, which was a big hit to the camp. Geno Smith's presence had been a massive draw to it in the first place. Enemkpali understood, but asked that he cover the non-refundable booking costs the camp incurred. Geno agreed, but allegedly never followed through on the repayment, which led to the D-end confronting him in the locker room. Despite the enormous fallout from the fight, Geno says this too proved to be a huge learning experience for him, which he would handle way differently today.
It's probably a moment where I feel like, yeah, I could have done some things better. I would have, probably just handled it a different way, but it happened. Like I said, I had to learn how to not be Geno from Miami. You know what I'm saying? I had to learn how to be who I am now. I wasn't always in this mindset.
Veteran Ryan Fitzpatrick took over the starting job and never relinquished it, as the once promising Geno Smith turned backup for most of the following season. He finally got a start in Week 7 of 2016, only for him to tear his ACL and miss out on the rest of the season. An awful way to go out in his last ever game as a New York Jet. That offseason, Smith traded the Gotham Green for dark blue, joining the Giants, now sitting as a backup behind the ever-present Eli Manning, a switch that resulted in death threats to his family. But in late November of 2017, Geno got his chance, named the starter over Eli, which broke Manning's remarkable 210-game start streak for the Giants. After getting on the field, Geno couldn't lead a woeful Giants team to victory against the Raiders, and Eli was restored as the starter the following week. In the 2018 offseason, Smith visited various teams, looking to start anew and once again earn a franchise QB role in the NFL. Though he was drawn to the Seahawks team culture, Geno eventually chose to join the Chargers on a 1-year deal, but did not manage a single start at the StubHub Arena and was seemingly down and out, with no chance of regaining a starting spot in the NFL. Geno had begun to accept this reality. He stopped working out for a period of time and focused on planning for his life after football. He had always been artistic and a man of many talents. There was more to life than football, after all. Yet this didn't constitute outright failure for Smith. You see, he cites the main key to his success as never getting too high or too low. Though he was drafted later than planned, at least he was drafted. Even as a backup, at least he was still in the NFL. And if the ensuing offseason proved football wasn't the path for him, it was simply a redirection and didn't define who he was as a person. Interest in the former second-round pick remained strong across the league, though Smith had his heart set on Seattle when the 2019 offseason rolled around. Although he didn't see any action for the Seahawks in 2019, Geno felt welcome nonetheless, finally starting to feel at home in the NFL, and most importantly, never losing faith that his opportunity would arise. He made his first appearance for the Seahawks in 2020 in a blowout win against the Jets, of all teams, but finally saw significant time on the field in 2021 following an injury to Russell Wilson in Week 5. Though the Seahawks lost 3 of the 4 games with Smith under center, he looked better than he had in his first 8 years in the league, with 702 passing yards for 5 touchdowns and only 1 pick, accompanied by an impressive 68% pass completion rate, his highest as an NFL starter. When Seattle and Denver agreed to a blockbuster trade that sent Russ to the Broncos, Geno knew his moment had arrived. He beat out Drew Lock to the starting job in 2022, and remarkably, 8 years after his last season opener as the starter, Geno Smith led the Seahawks out in Week 1 against who else but the Russell Wilson-led Denver Broncos. Geno went 23 for 28, throwing for 195 yards and 2 touchdowns in a 17-16 triumph in his first game back. An emotional, well-deserved victory, which led to this iconic post-game snippet. Things only went up from here, with steadily improving performances across the course of the season where he helped the Seahawks return to the playoffs with a 9-8 record. Geno Smith finished the 2022 regular season with 4,282 passing yards for 30 touchdowns and 11 interceptions, leading the league with a 69.8% completion rate. This was his best season by far, earning him a Pro Bowl selection and a much-deserved Comeback Player of the Year award. Russ left big shoes to fill, but Smith in Seattle seemed like a perfect match, agreeing to a 3-year, $75 million deal in the 2023 offseason. Finally at home, reaping the rewards of the faith and hard work that he had relentlessly devoted to his NFL career over the course of a decade, Geno Smith continued to bring the heat in 2023. Though his overall numbers saw a slight dip, the film showed that he was becoming an increasingly clutch player at this stage in his career. He broke a single-season NFL record for go-ahead touchdowns in the fourth quarter with 7, whilst also producing a league-leading 4 fourth-quarter comebacks and 5 game-winning drives. Fitting for a player like Smith, whose career has been defined by that never-say-die attitude. This earned him a second consecutive Pro Bowl appearance, as the Florida native has aged into his starting role like a fine wine, saying that as he gets older, his reads and execution become more automatic, making him unstoppable late in games as the opposition wanes. He has started 2024 red hot as well, with a league-leading 1,466 passing yards through 5 games, putting the Seahawks atop the NFC West. After 7 long years as a backup, Geno Smith's career renaissance is an inspirational tale of the importance of self-belief, paired with enough discipline to back that up with hard work, which allowed Geno to seize the moment when it mattered most. Now 33 years old, how many more seasons do you see Geno Smith playing at this level? Let us know in the comments. Big thanks